Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Undergraduate Academics webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to Ashoka's esteemed faculty. In this series, we will talk about majors and minors offered as part of Ashoka's undergraduate program. Our faculty will guide you in understanding the various aspects of the subjects, including pedagogy, courses, research opportunities, careers, faculty, and other details about the program. In the past, we have covered psychology, English, history, computer science, entrepreneurship, biology, physics, and chemistry at Ashoka. The recordings of these previous sessions are available on Ashoka's YouTube channel, the link to which is provided in the chat box. Our next sessions will focus on other core subjects such as journalism and media studies. We will continue to send you updates about these sessions. Thank you for joining us for today's session, Why Study Economics at Ashoka University? My name is Garvit, a second year economics and finance major at Ashoka, pursuing a minor in political science, and I will be today's moderator. Joining us today is Professor Ashwini Deshpande. Professor Deshpande is a professor of economics and the founding director of CEDA, the Center for Economic Data and Analysis at Ashoka University. Her accomplishments are many, but I'll try to do justice to some of them. Her PhD and early publications have been on the international debt crisis of the 1980s. Subsequently, she has been working on the economics of discrimination and affirmative action, with a focus on caste and gender in India. She is the author of Grammar of Caste, Economic Discrimination in Contemporary India, and Affirmative Action in India. She is the editor of Boundaries of Clan and Color, Transnational Comparisons of Intergroup Disparity, Globalization and Development, A Handbook of New Perspectives, Capital Without Borders, Challenges to Development, and Global Economic Crisis and the Developing World. She received the EXIM Award for Outstanding Dissertation, which is now known as the IERA Award, in 1994, and a 2000 VKRV Rao Award for Indian Economists under 45. So without any further delay, let's get started. We will begin the talk and then take audience questions towards the second half of the session. You can type your questions in the Q&A box provided on the Zoom panel. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Garvit. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the kind introduction. Just wanted to let you know that the VKRV Rao Award was 2007. So I'm 7 years younger than what Garvit had announced, but that's a minor detail. Welcome, everyone, to this session, and I'm going to take you through a short presentation, and we'll talk about why study economics at Ashoka. And then, I'll be happy to take questions from the floor. So let me start by sharing my screen. Why study economics at Ashoka? And this is more about studying economics, but I will also talk about our faculty, which is now ranked number one in all institutions in India, and is also ranked very high in the Asian rankings in terms of faculty research. So, economics is about things that we see around us in the world, and we have an idea of what they mean. But studying economics gives you the tools and the apparatus that you need to understand these issues that we talk about. One of those issues that, for example, that we often talk about is inequality, right? And we have a sense of what that means. But when you actually start looking at the problem of inequality, you realize that there are many dimensions to it. So, for example, in this cartoon that you see on the screen, what do you see? You see basically three broad classes of people: the rich, the middle class, and the poor, and the government thrown in. And you see, for example, how the rich are the best off in this economy, and the poor are just being dragged along. And the engine of the economy is running on the labor or the work of the middle classes. Now, of course, somebody can disagree with this view, and I'm not saying that this is the best perfect depiction of inequality, but it gives you the idea that people's place in the economy is not equal, even though we might all be equal citizens, or we might have the right to vote equally. But when we think of ourselves as economic agents, which by that we mean people who make economic decisions, the role that we play in society and the role that we play in the economy can vary depending on who we are, right? And the concept of inequality captures that somehow, right? Here's another cartoon that depicts inequality. I mean, there are many ways of depicting inequality, and here's the king is telling the subjects, our economy is in excellent shape. Yours, on the other hand, so basically he's making a distinction between gainers from inequality and losers from inequality. And that's one of the key concepts in economics that you will learn, which is that for every phenomenon, however bad it might be, there are some people who benefit from that phenomenon, and there's some people who lose out, right? And inequality is one such. So when you have inequality in societies, or inequality in economies, there are some individuals, it could be the government, it could be the ruling classes, who benefit from a certain unequal distribution of income, right? And then there are some who pay the price for inequality. So a lot of discussion in economics would be about discussing who's going to gain from this move and who's going to lose out from this move. And whenever, for example, a new development takes place, say COVID hits, or there is a change in laws, right? You can always talk in terms of who is this going to benefit and who's going to be worse off as a result of this particular change. So that's a key idea that gets discussed in economics. Okay. Now, a common prerequisite for economics is mathematics. And in fact, most places where you go for undergraduate studies in economics, they will require mathematics in 11th and 12th. Now, you will say, well, the two cartoons that you showed us about inequality, why do we need maths to understand that? Well, the answer to that is that economics is both quantitative as well as qualitative. Okay. So, in other words, we can, qualitative means a phenomenon such as inequality or poverty, right? So these are qualitative concepts. But how do you measure it? How do you calculate it? How do you measure the change in it? These are, you need numbers for that. You need certain statistical and mathematical tools. You might want to build a model of, if X changes, then what will happen to Y, right? So you need quantitative techniques, and those quantitative techniques use mathematics. But economics is not applied mathematics, so it's not as though you it's just a little bit lower than a mathematics honors course, for example. So the kind of mathematics that economists use is actually compared to the mathematics that physicists use, or actual researchers in mathematics use. Compared to that, the mathematics used in, certainly in early courses in economics, is not that much. But you still need some degree of mathematical training, right? It helps. It really helps, because the idea is to understand these concepts in terms of analytical categories which are quantitative, right? So it helps to have a mathematical training, and that's the reason why there is a prerequisite that is put for entry into economics courses. Okay. But of course, you're only as good as, all of us, we need to understand the concept and be able to apply it. So just knowing mathematics with no understanding of the social issue will also not produce a good economist. So you need a combination of quantitative techniques along with the social science understanding, right? And like everything else, whether you use mathematics or don't use mathematics, the more you study, the more you repeat it, the more practice you get, the better you get at anything, right? Now, with so much mathematics, ooh, is it all Greek to me? Because there's a lot of alpha, beta, gamma, delta that gets used in economics, calculus, etc. Some people say it's all Greek to me. I don't understand it. Okay, it need not be Greek. The thing about economics programs everywhere in the world as well as in Ashoka, is that there is a structure. It's sequential, right? It's like learning the alphabet, then learning the grammar, and then finally being able to write essays or poetry. So in English also, right? We begin by learning the alphabet, and then people go on to becoming novelists or poets or whatever, right? And so similarly in economics, there is a sequential structure, and there are certain core elements that you start with, you build upon those, and then in your third year, when you come to the third year of your undergraduate program, I'll show you the structure of the Ashoka undergraduate program in a minute. But when you come to your third year, that's when you start putting the building blocks together and creating structures and understanding, seeing patterns, right? It's like being given a Lego box with different pieces. So first you study the different pieces, you see what they enable you to do, and then you learn how to put it together. And when you start putting it together, it's magic, right? Because you create something new, or it's like a jigsaw puzzle where you examine each piece and then you start seeing the patterns, and how they link with each other. So, for example, I'd already talked about gainers and losers. So any policy will always benefit some people, and other people will lose out. So who gains from a policy? Who loses from a policy? Is it a good policy? There's nothing which is absolutely good or absolutely bad. You have to think of how many people are benefiting, how many people are losing out. Is the loss of the losers greater than the benefit of the beneficiaries, of the winners, right? So these are comparisons that you have to make, because economics is all about scarcity, right? If you had unlimited amounts of resources, then the question of allocation is meaningless, because any number of people can take as much as they want. But resources are scarce, and so they have to be allocated in an efficient manner so that the best use can be made of the scarce resources. And economics is really about allocation of scarce resources amongst competing users. So there are different competing users. How do we decide which is the best use of a particular resource? And so that's why you need to understand, gainers, losers, and develop patterns, right? So there are examples on these slides. Is it a good idea to split up large states into small ones? What happens to things like GDP or state development product? Should all children attend preschool? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Or should they stay at home? Okay. If we find evidence that attending preschool increases cognitive abilities, by how much does it increase? Because there is also cost of going to the preschool. So what are the benefits? What are the costs? How do you weigh them against each other? Right. So there's nothing which is completely costless, and so economics helps you evaluate these competing uses of resources. Okay. Uh, so in even to finally start thinking of these questions, we need the basic technical building blocks that will give us analytical tools. These are the analytical tools that we need in order to then eventually start examining these questions. And so therefore, we need a solid foundation of statistical, mathematical, and economic theory analysis. And that's what the first 2 years of the program will provide you in Ashoka. And in your third year, then you start to put it all together, and that's when you decide to either major in economics or do a major and a minor. And I'll come to the differences between all of these options towards the end of my presentation. So till the third year, basically, students learn all these building blocks, but you need to be patient, right? The more patient you are, the more you'll reap the rewards. So if you do really well in the technical fields in the first 2 years, first it'll help you to choose better optionals in the third year, and secondly, this is the training that will help you also in the job market later on, right? So if you want to be a researcher, it will help you to devise a research plan that will help you answer these questions. If you want to go straight away into the labor market, into the job market, these are the techniques that will help you to work in a bank or in a financial institution, or become an economic journalist, or work with a multilateral, like a UN international agency or something like that, whichever career path you choose, right? So no matter what you want to do, and career opportunities are typically good for economic students. So that's why you need to learn these, and that's the reason why the technical skills are so important, is because they help you to become full-fledged economists, to go into higher studies or not. And even if you didn't want to do that, if you just wanted to exit after your undergrad and go into the job market, you still need these skills. So first of all, you begin with, Ashoka has a structure which is different from other Indian universities. So all Ashoka students do foundation courses. Every single undergraduate has to do a set of foundation courses. And these are not only courses in economics, these are courses that talk to you about great books, that talk to you about philosophy of science, right? There's a whole range of foundation courses, and the details are given on the Ashoka website. You should look at them. But we also have economics foundation courses. So there are foundation courses that are in the field of economics, economy, politics, and society. And this is one of the 8 foundation courses that you will have to do if you join Ashoka. This year we have 2 foundation courses. We might, depends on the faculty that's available. And so we have, economics foundation courses. Now, for the foundation courses, class 11 and 12 mathematics is not a prerequisite, because these foundation courses are open to everybody, including somebody who might want to study art, history, or English literature, right? And so they don't need mathematics. And so the foundation courses you can do without any mathematical prerequisite. Okay. But these foundation courses are not mandatory for an economics major. You're encouraged to do them. You can do them, but you can do something else as well. So there's a menu of foundation courses, and you should browse the website and choose the foundation courses that you like, including something that's offered by another department. Okay. But there is an introduction to economics course that is mandatory if you want to major in economics. So the way in which the Ashoka program works is that there are foundation courses that are open to everybody. Then for every major, there is a requirement of courses that you need to take sequentially, right? So you take this course and then you take a bunch of these other courses, etc. So that's given on every department's website, and similarly on economics. And you can take those courses and go forward, and then fulfill your requirement for an economics major. Okay. So for example, for economics, there are these other mandatory courses which you have to do in addition to introduction to economics. So you have mathematics for economists in year 1, you have statistics and econometrics in year 2, microeconomic theory 1 and 2 in year 2, macroeconomic theory 1 and 2 in year 2, and in your third year, you can do um, economics of development economics. And so sequential means that the mathematics for economics course precedes all the other courses. Statistics precedes econometrics. So maths precedes micro. So you do maths first and then you do micro. You do maths first and then you do macro. You do statistics first and then you do econometrics, because you can't in order to do econometrics, you need to know statistics, right? So you do need to do micro 1 first, then you do micro 2. You do need to do macro 1 first, then you need to do macro 2, etc. Right? And so there is a sequence in which economics courses are structured everywhere, and that's true for Ashoka as well. Then when you come to your third year, there are a lot of elective courses. These are optional courses. Because by this time, what you've learned is you've learned mathematics, you've learned micro 1, micro 2, etc., development. And development economics is going to open your horizon to a whole range of real economic issues. So you not only learning textbook models, but you're now learning about actual problems in development. And that can take you into many different directions. And every student is different, every student has different interests. So you look at what you are interested in, and then you branch out. So then you can take electives on either Indian economy, industrial organization, experimental economics, behavioral economics, public economics, labor economics, health economics, economics of gender, economics of discrimination, economics of food security, political economy, environmental economics, advanced econometrics, time series econometrics, monetary economics, and so on and so forth. So you can see, and as we get more faculty, the range of elective or optional courses increases. So basically, once you've gone through your basic building blocks, then you can branch out and you can move into directions that you are excited by. But initially, everybody has to eat, has to, sorry, I was going to use the analogy of you have to eat your vegetables, but everybody has to do a basic set of core courses, right? When we are growing up as kids, our mothers tell us to, you must eat your vegetables, right? Everybody has to eat, all the kids have to eat. And so it's the same concept, which is initially you need to have certain tools in your toolkit, in your analytical toolkit, in order to then tackle larger problems. So this is what, for example, an economics program looks like. So first semester, second semester, etc., etc. And this is the blue, the courses that are marked in blue are the foundation courses. So in your first semester, you basically just do foundation courses. In your second semester, you do two foundation courses and two um, intro to econ and math econ courses. Semester 3, you do one foundation course and three econ courses. Semester 4, also you do one foundation course and then three compulsory courses. It's only in semester 5 when you do your last foundation course, your DevEco course, development economics course, then you get to do two elective courses. And then semester 6 is all elective courses. This is for a 3-year undergraduate. Now it's possible that we might move to a 4-year undergraduate, but then then that course, that outline will change. Okay, you can do what I showed you earlier was just an economics major. You can do economics and finance. You can do an interdisciplinary economics and finance, and this is the course structure for economics and finance. So the ones that are marked in gray now are courses from finance, and this is a very popular a major among students because the employability, the in the job market, this gives you more tools to become further employable. But you can choose, and the good news is that you don't have to choose until you get to semester 4. You can choose, you can keep thinking about what you want to do, and then in semester 4 you can decide what you want to do. You can also do other interdisciplinary majors. You can do economics and history. You can do PPE, politics, philosophy, and economics. So there's a similar template that you'll see on our website where you can do PPE, and then you can choose. So this is, it's probably too small for you to see, but basically what this is telling you is what your options are. So supposing you wanted to do an economics major, then you look at the first column. You'll have, these are the courses you need, these are the numbers of courses you need to do. You can stay back for the 4th year. Okay, and you can do an advanced scholars program. So right now we don't have a 4-year undergraduate because the UGC, the government has only come out with a new economic policy, and that still has not been operationalized. But the 4th year is when you finish your undergrad and you can come back, and then you can do what is called the ASP. And so you can do all of these things. You can do a capstone thesis, you can do more electives, you can do a second minor. If you just wanted to minor in economics, there are two options for you in terms of which courses you need to take. You can also do what is called a concentration in economics. So then you do these 4 economics courses that are listed in this column called concentration. If you do economics and finance, this is the course structure. If you do economics and history, this is at PPE1, PPE2, PPE3, etc. So basically, there are many mix and match kind of options that are available. And we are working also on other interdisciplinary majors. And so in the coming year, we might come up with more interdisciplinary majors, not just economics and finance, but other ones as well. So we are in conversation with other departments. And the faculty, I haven't included a link here with the faculty page because I'm aware of the time constraint, but I encourage you to go to the economics, the department, Ashoka website, and click on department, go to economics, and look at our sterling faculty. We have the largest faculty within economics, within Ashoka, and who are all extremely diverse, extremely research active, which is what has put the economics department as number 1 in the country. And you'll be pleasantly surprised to see that we have a very good gender mix, which economics is typically known for its male dominated faculty, but not so in Ashoka. We have a very diverse set of faculty in terms of research interests, in terms of skill sets, in terms of capabilities. And Ashoka is a great place to come to. So, with that, let me stop and I guess move towards more an interactive and a Q&A format. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm happy to now take questions.
Thank you for that talk, Professor. We'll directly jump into questions. We have quite a number of questions. So the first question that came is, how accessible is research for economic undergraduates?
Um, yeah, so, 3 years is not a lot of time to learn the basics and to do research. I assume that the question is about doing research yourself, or is it learning other people's research? Could the person clarify?
Uh, I think they mean the latter.
Learning about other people's research?
Wait, I'm not sure they've clarified
Okay.
it.
Anyway, let me answer both. Let me answer whatever the question was. So, if you're talking about doing your own research, you might start to get ideas in your towards the end of your third year, and you're welcome to come back to do your capstone thesis in your fourth year. And so, a lot of students who get really interested in the questions that we talk about in class decide to then come back in the fourth year and do a capstone thesis, which is a full-fledged research thesis, right? And so you can definitely do that. There are many, many students who do that. In terms of accessing other people's research papers, the elective courses precisely help you to do that, including in the compulsory development economics course. We introduce students to original research papers, and certainly in the elective courses we introduce students to original research papers. So the idea is to be able to, with the tools you've learned in the first 5 semesters or 4 semesters, the last 2 semesters help you make use of those tools in accessing other research that gets done by other economists.
All right. Uh, the next question that we have is, what sets apart the economics curriculum at Ashoka from other US colleges?
So, in a US liberal arts college, it would be pretty similar, I would imagine. In fact, that we've taken the sort of the best traditions of the US liberal arts curriculum, but of course, it's set. This is set in India, so we are more development focused. We will give examples from the Indian context that are more relevant to our context. But in terms of the tools, we match the best in the US. So there's no disadvantage to studying in Ashoka. It's not as though you're going to be not learning something that a typical undergraduate in economics. So we try to make sure that's the reason why it matters whether your faculty is research active, because they keep in touch with the latest developments in the field and they try to impart those techniques into their teaching methods as well. So even though the core is the core, but our faculty are very aware of the need to make their curriculum very contemporary. So in whichever topic that whichever faculty member is teaching, they will be up to date, they will look at the latest resources, and even the core courses, they keep evolving over the years in terms of keeping up with the latest.
All right. I think the next question we have is, sorry for the background interruption. The next question that we have is, can students get experience doing field research and experiments and working under professors as research assistants to get more first-hand idea of how research in economics happens?
Yeah, research assistants, we all need research assistants all the time. So the answer to that question is yes. It's a question of just constraints in terms of your own time, because Ashoka, once you join, you will realize it's a fantastic place for extracurricular activities, theater, music, sports, poetry, etc., film club, all kinds of activities. So and talks, just general interest, public lectures, etc. So it's a very exciting place, and this is the time of your life when you should be experiencing all of this. So you have all this, you have the demands of the curriculum, the exams and assignments, etc., etc. So whether you can work as an RA or not, over and above that, is a function of how much time you have. Faculty always need RAs, and we keep on advertising. And now, the center that I'm leading, Center for Economic Data and Analysis, we have interns, who work with us in the breaks, and so we'll always be advertising for interns, etc. Um, Experiment. We have an experimental lab, a behavioral experiment lab, and we, as you saw in my slides, we have courses on experimental economics, behavioral economics. Field trips, we haven't had any yet because it's just hard to fit it into the curriculum, but it's not an option that's completely closed. It's just harder to organize field trips because the constraints of the curriculum. Because also because Ashoka encourages students to take courses across disciplines, so the timetable gets stretched out a lot. So if you take one political science course, one music course or something, then your time, in terms of when you have to be in class, keeps getting stretched out. So there are those kinds of constraints. But having said that, yeah, RA experience, experiments, labs, etc., all of that definitely happens a lot.
Yeah. The next question that we have is: can one take a track within the economics major, either in macro, micro, or finance, or any other track available?
No, so economics major is, what that means is that you have to have a certain number of courses in economics, right? So the core courses remain the same for everybody. So that's what I was trying to explain in the beginning about the building blocks, right? Everybody needs a certain set of build techniques and tools, and so that remains common. If you want to build your own track, you can definitely do it through the electives. So supposing micro is what you like, right? So the core courses, you have to do everything, but then you can take, in your optionals, in your elective courses, you can take micro oriented, micro based courses. Many people do that because that's what they're interested in. Somebody doesn't like micro, they want empirical papers, but you have to do a little bit of micro. So everybody has to do micro, macro, maths, stats, econometrics, development. Because the idea is that you have to get exposure to all these fields, learn the techniques. Then, having done that, you can branch off into, you can build your own sequence in terms of elective courses. Because
Yeah.
many elective courses also have prerequisites. So there might be a game theory 2 and a game theory 1, and every professor will state, what the prerequisites are. So supposing you want to do the game theory track, so then you should know that in order to do game theory 2, you need to do game theory 1. So you take those courses then. So you can build your own track.
Yeah. The next question that we have is that after the ASP program, how does it help any student who is looking to go for graduate school in the US, and how do Ashokans fare when it comes to graduate schools vis-a-vis US?
So ASP really helps a lot in terms of grad school. Because right now, since the undergrad is 3 years, it gives you the fourth year, which is the minimum number of years you need to have in order to apply to grad school. Secondly, because in the ASP, you are doing something advanced, something over and above. So either you're doing more electives, or you're doing another minor, or you're doing a capstone, or you're doing what is called an independent study module, an ISM, which can be a year-long program, it can be a semester-long program. So basically, if you come back for the ASP year, the fourth year, you are taking a deep dive into some aspect, right? And that means that you are also more in touch with the particular professor, or with a couple of professors, so you can choose that in a way that it maximizes your chances of getting into grad school. So it gives you recommendation letters. All of this counts for a lot for grad school applications. And so we've had good track record in terms of placements, not placements, I mean grad school, depending on who wants to go. So many students want to go into the job market for a bit, so they do that as well. So we have a career development office in Ashoka, but you also have our economics department placement cell as well, which also helps students to access opportunities. So yeah, I would say to come back to the question of research or grad school applications, I would say the ASP really helps.
All right. The next question that we have is that how is the economics program at Ashoka different from, let's say, other commerce-focused courses at other colleges in India or courses like BMS or other these type of courses in India? What sets Ashoka different from them?
Well, A, it's not a commerce program. B, it's not a management program. So BMS, I'm assuming it means Bachelor of Management Studies, right? So that's management, and BCom is Bachelor in Commerce. So this is economics, and there are elements of little bit of overlap between commerce, economics, and management, but they are very, very different fields. So this is an economics program. So the question should be, how is the economics program in Ashoka different from economics programs in DU, for example, or other universities? Well, the slides that I presented, and I think this is being recorded, so you can go back to the recording and watch the slides again. But basically, there are many ways in which this is different. First, because of the compulsory foundation courses, which everybody has to do, every single undergraduate, the Ashoka undergraduate program gives a much more well-rounded educational experience than any other undergraduate program in the country. Okay, so no matter whether you do physics or economics or music or English literature, you get an exposure to a much wider range of topics through the foundation courses. Secondly, because we have this sequential, I mean, that all economics programs have a sequential pattern of courses, and because we have a very large faculty with diverse interests, the number of electives that economics undergraduates in Ashoka can do is much larger than the number of electives. The options, the menu is much larger. Okay. And so foundation courses, core courses, and electives, if you see that combination, that mosaic, is a much richer mosaic, much richer set of options that economics undergraduates get compared to other universities in India. Compared to the best universities abroad, as I said before, in response to another question, we give just as good an education as a good school in abroad would give. Yeah.
Yeah, the next question is that how accessible are professors to students outside classes? Can we interact with them outside office hours? And how helpful are the professors in general at Ashoka?
I think all of us are very helpful. Yesterday, I spent 4 hours in student meetings on Zoom, outside of my class. So yesterday, because they have a test coming up tomorrow, so they had all wanted to see me yesterday. So I had one-on-one meetings. So I would like to think that we are all very accessible. I think we are. Uh, so of course there are office, and the other good thing about Ashoka is that the office hours concept is formalized. So every course, every professor has to declare office hours as a part of their, contact hours. But there's much more interaction that happens outside of office hours as well. And so, as I said, the students email us and we book times. Normally, when we are on campus, we would have booked the time on campus, but now that everything is online, we have Zoom meetings, and we are accessible.
Yeah. The next question that we have is that is there an option to sort of substitute the mandatory math requirement for studying economics at Ashoka by some other math aptitude test offered by Ashoka or any other exam recognized by the economics department?
That's a good question, and I should know the answer to this absolutely unambiguously. I know that this gets discussed quite a lot. To the best of my knowledge, I think that you have to do, there is no uh, option out of the math for econ course, that it is a part of the program. But whoever's asked the question, if you email me later on, I can just find out exactly where we are at, because every now and then this discussion comes up, which is What if somebody took a waiver and demonstrated mathematical ability? Then could that person do another course? This question comes up again and again. As far as I know, that option is not there right now, just to make sure that we are all on the same page. But do email me and I will check and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. The next question that we have is that what kind of a student would be sort of most successful or most proficient studying economics? What are the prerequisites that they should bring in with themselves that would make them a very an excellent student, essentially speaking?
Well, I mean, it's the same set of prerequisites that you need to have to excel at anything. Uh, you have to love what you do. You have to be interested in what you do. There are no, I mean, you can memorize a particular material and do well at a particular exam. All of those things are possible. But to achieve true excellence in any field, whether it's sports or music or economics or mathematics or English literature, at the end of the day, you need to love what you do. That's what really makes for, because then you want to do more of it. And practice is absolutely essential to do well in economics. The more you practice, the better you are, the better you will get. It's just, there is a lot of technical material, as I told you before. And any technique, it's use it or lose it. And that happens to us. So for example, we teach some things and we use some techniques for our research, and there's a lot more that we've learned, and some of it we don't use for our research. And every now and then I find myself saying, oh wait, I used to know this, what is it again? I haven't used it in a while, and it's temporarily gone to the back of my mind, so then I have to read about it again. So the more you use a particular technique, the better you get at it, right? And because economics is technical, the foundations of economics are technical. Practice is what makes you a good student. So you should be prepared to practice. So the fact that you have to practice is not doesn't mean that you're not a good student. In fact, the fact that have to practice and that you are practicing means you're a really good student, right? So that's something that I mean, this is true practically for everything, but because it's technical in technical courses, it's even more true, I guess.
For sure. I think the next question we have is about do we have any kind of exchange programs with other leading universities in India or abroad? So, and are there any kind of economic specific exchange programs that are really sought after or something that an Ashoka facilitate?
Yeah, so Ashoka has a bunch of MOUs with foreign universities, and we do have students coming from other universities. I see them on campus, and every now and then we get a notice. I'm not sure again of the exact institutional mechanism that by which Ashoka students can go abroad, but again, we have a special office to take care of all that. Dean Vanita Shastri, handles all this. So somebody who's organizing this, somebody from the Ashoka team might be able to suggest where this information is available. But definitely, Ashoka has a lot of MOUs with many institutions. But every MOU has its own set of rules and regulations. But the Ashoka team that's on this call, on this webinar, will send you more information about that.
Yeah, I think the next question that we have is somewhat related to job market after pursuing economics at Ashoka. So could we share any kind of what kind of profiles do economics major at Ashoka usually go for after they leave, uh, maybe after 3 years as well as after 4 years?
So banks are obviously the most one big sector, one big industry that employs economics undergraduates. Basically, any industry that needs a financial analyst. So in the corporate sector, for example, where you need a financial analyst, a lot of economics undergraduates will get employment in, so all the Deloitte and Genpact and Citibank and HSBC, and HSBC not so much now because they've cut down their operations in India, but things like that. Then you have as I said, the international international multilateral institutions like the UN system, ILO and things like that. So these, they often have these research, sort of research positions, World Bank. Then you have think tanks, like NCAER, or you have the ID Insight, JPAL, which is I don't know if you know about JPAL. It's this, it's a lab, it's a Jameel Abdul Poverty Action Lab. It's based at MIT in the US, and they do randomized control trials. They have an office in India. So they require a lot of interns. So they often come to us to say, send us your students for interns. UN Women, for example, will hire. So in the UN system, so that's the kind of, those are the kinds of jobs that students get.
Right. One question we have is about the class sizes of economics courses at Ashoka and the teacher to student ratio. So if you could share some comments on that.
Good question. So Ashoka is very strict about not having a very large class. So for example, in statistics, so even if there are, the total number of students is large. For example, I teach statistics for economists for second year. And last year we had, I don't know how many, but basically that meant, given the cap of about 40 to 42 students per class, we had 5 sections in statistics. So I taught 2 sections, somebody else taught 2, and then one person taught 1. So the point is that if the total number of students becomes large, then we increase the sections. But it is never, foundation courses are large class sizes, but all the economics courses, all the subject courses are subject to course caps. So we make sure that the subject courses don't have very large class sizes, because it's then, the pedagogy and the sort of teacher student interaction becomes compromised as a result of that.
Right. Yeah. One question we have is with regards to the interdisciplinary majors with economics at Ashoka. So the question revolves around the fact that if we do choose to go for some kind of an interdisciplinary major, is there in any way that the student might be missing out on some kind of courses in pure economics versus going for a interdisciplinary major?
Yes. So this is something that economics will teach you, which is that there are no choices that you can make which don't have costs. So it's a good life lesson to learn. So if you do path A, you do miss out on path B. So it's for every student to decide what works for me. Do I want to travel down this road, or do I want to travel down that road? And economics, because it's all about scarcity and allocation of resources, it's about supply and demand, right? And so the question is, any resource can have many multiple uses. What is the best use of that resource? That depends on the context. That depends on what the problem at hand is. And so it is with education. I mean, we might want to have unlimited education, but that's just not possible, right? I regret, oh, I should have learned, music, I should have learned this, and I should have learned that, but you can't. Or maybe you can do a little bit of something on the side, and we try to do that, many of us. But often, not often, I mean, most of the time, people end up specializing in something or the other, right? What is the best thing to do is a very personal question. And what I think, what Ashoka encourages you is to think for yourself. We are all, by the time you come to Ashoka, you are adults. And we place a lot of emphasis on interdisciplinarity, which basically means that we open up your minds to many different fields. And what is the use of that? Well, the use of that is that it then, you relate it to yourself as a personality, and you say, okay, here is me. Here is all this information that, here is me was wrong English. Here I am. And here is all this information that I'm getting. I put the two together, and what do now me as a human being, me as an individual, me as a personality, what works best for me? Should I major in economics, or should I go in for an interdisciplinary major? The answer is going to be different for everybody. There is no right or wrong answer to this question.
Yeah. So the next question we have is with regards to diversity that you mentioned about in faculty and students. So how does this kind of diversity augment the quality of education, the quality of ideas that are discussed at Ashoka?
I think it augments it hugely, because, we like to think of ourselves as an objective subject, with technical, etc., etc. But now there's a lot of research within economics by economists about how the the social identity of the researcher affects the research, right? And so, for example, if you have greater gender diversity, it will be inevitable that gender disparities in a lot of sphere will get discussed. It'll get. That's not to say that men don't work on women's problems or women don't work on something very technical as mechanism design, etc. That's not. I'm not making an essentialist argument, but every researcher or every student brings their own location, brings their own identity to bear. It's a part of us. We can't help it, right? And so overall, then there is no one-to-one ratio. It's not like because I'm a woman, I will necessarily work. Because, for example, if you think of my own PhD, I didn't used to work on gender at all. My PhD was on international debt. So the fact that I was a woman had nothing to do with my research, right? And that can also happen, and it does happen, and that's fine too. But on the whole, the greater the diversity of social identities in any field, the greater is going to be the diversity of thoughts, and the greater is going to be the diversity of research ideas. Because our own location, especially as we become older, our own location does inform what we get interested in. It's inevitable. It's context, right? It's the environment. And that does shape what the way we think, and that shapes the way we do research. And students also, diversity, the more diverse the student bodies, they're going to bring a certain kind of question to bear. They'll ask you questions in class, they will choose research topics, and push you to think in different directions. So, by the way, all along I've been talking about we as teachers impart this education to you. What I want to emphasize is that the student body, by their presence and by their questions, forces us to think of questions sometimes that we hadn't thought of before. So it's a very interactive process. Students play a big role in shaping research agendas of professors more than they realize. So, and Ashoka is the best, allows that interaction between students and professors a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I think I agree with that extremely on like very much so. One question we have is with regards to the course load, like doing a economics major along with a minor versus doing an interdisciplinary major versus just doing a pure economics major. Uh, does that course load get too heavy, or is it something that a student should go for? Like something, if you could say on
Also,
that.
the number of courses is the same for everything. It's just a question of number of courses in which field. So, that last table that I showed you, that one with the lots of crosses. So you need to focus on that a little bit and say, okay, if I did an economics major, these are the options I have to take. So the total number of courses doesn't change. It's a question of how you distribute those courses. So it requires a lot of thinking, but that can happen once you come in. The good news is about Ashoka is you don't have to decide in the beginning. Unlike if you went to DU, you would have to decide in the beginning whether you're doing an economics honors course or a history honors or whatever. You'll get admission into a program. Whereas in Ashoka, you're getting admission into the undergraduate program. That's it. Once you come in, then is the time you figure out, for yourself what you can. I mean, I believe the admission office asks you what would you like to major in, but you can say anything there. It doesn't. Nobody's going to hold you to it, saying, "Oh, you said economics, then now we are putting a gun to your head and you have to get into economics." It's not like that. You might have thought that you wanted to do history, but you got so interested in economics that you switched. Not switched is not the right word. You decided to do economics, or the other way around, right? So you come in as an undergraduate, you go through, that sequence that I showed you in that multicolored table, and as you move forward, your ideas start to form. You start to realize what you like. You start to realize what you didn't like, and that's a process of just self discovery. That happens. That's the best kind of that's the best way to make decisions, actually, to discover for yourself what you like and what you don't like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. It's a very individual specific process, and we believe in not straitjacketing, and we believe in this individual specific process.
I couldn't agree more with that statement, Professor. For yeah. I think we have time for one last question. So the question that we have is that, is it possible to question the fundamental assumption of economics during your time at the in the undergraduate program at Ashoka? And how rigid is the course structured to stay within the existing lines of economic thinking?
No, so it you have to stay within. So it's the first time you'll be learning proper economics, even if you've done it in school, and maybe you haven't done it in school. That's fine. We start from scratch, and there is a set of hoops you have to cross. But do I wouldn't look at it as rigidity. It's true for everything. Think of music. Many of you might have learned music or might be learning music. So how do you learn say Hindustani classical, supposing? You have to learn saregama, right, in the beginning? Or if you're learning the piano, you have to learn the keys. Will you call that rigidity, or will you say these are the basic steps I need to learn? Later on you can become, I don't know, give me some example of somebody very innovative who turns the piano keys on its head and does something brilliant. You can reach that stage, but in order to reach that stage you have to learn to play the piano first. Sachin Tendulkar, right? Virat Kohli, W- they are great batsmen today, but how did they start? They started with the basics of how to hold the bat and how to hit it, and the basic strokes and the basic things. There are no shortcuts. Don't think of it as rigidity at all. And no matter which discipline you go, you can always change the rules of the game once you come to the top. And that way, the rules of the economics game have changed over the last 50, 60 years. Many more things, like the stuff that I work on now, 20, 30 years or whatever, I don't know how many years ago, 28 years ago, whatever it was, that I started thinking of discrimination and caste and gender. No economist worked on it. Nobody. Right? And in fact, people discourage me saying, don't work on this. This is not economics. And today, you can't present any technical, empirical paper without talking of gender impact, caste impact, this impact, that impact. Now it's become standard, right? So things do change. But no matter what, I had to go through the basic micro, basic macro, basic maths, basic statistics, basic econometrics. I had to do it. Everybody has to do it. And not just in economics, in every field. I told you, music, I gave you examples of cricket, tennis, whatever. You can't become a Federer without first learning how to hold the tennis bat. You can't say, I'm not going to learn it. I'm just going to change the way tennis is played. Okay, maybe you can change it, but learn to play it first, right?
Uh, for sure. I think one last question that we have is that, is there any cap on the number of people who can study economics at Ashoka, or can everyone study? Is there any kind of cap anywhere for economics program?
I mean, it's just a question of faculty to students ratio. So far, we haven't reached that cap. In other words, we've been able to increase sections. So last year in statistics we had 4 sections, and that covered everybody. This year we had to have 5 sections, so we could increase another section. So far we haven't reached a stage where we are saying, oh, there are so many students and only so many teachers, and we can't increase the section. So far that hasn't happened. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, I think that brings to the end of today's session. So thank you for everyone, Professor Deshpande, as well as the audience for joining us today. We hope this webinar was helpful in understanding Ashoka's interdisciplinary economics program. Just a few last points before we wrap up today's session. Please take a minute to share your feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is in the chat box itself. We would also like to invite you to the open house on Saturday, 6th March at 11:30 a.m. This is an online open house with Mr. Ali Imran, who is the VP of External Engagements at Ashoka University, on the undergraduate program and admissions at Ashoka. In this open house, we will cover the various aspects of the UG program at Ashoka, including the courses, faculty, student life, admissions, and financial aid. Parents as well as students are invited to ask any questions related to the program and clarify their doubts. The registration link to the session is provided in the chat box itself. Our next subject-specific webinar in this series is on journalism and media studies at Ashoka on 9th March at 6 p.m. with Professor Vaiju Narvane, Head of the Department, Media Studies, Professor of Journalism and Media Studies. The registration links to these sessions are provided in the chat box as well. Lastly, I would like to inform our audience that round 3 applications for the undergraduate program are now open. The last day to submit your application in this round is 14th of March 2021. You can start your applications at apply.ashoka.edu.in or visit Ashoka University's website for complete details on the admission process and the timeline. If you have any further questions or would like to know more about Ashoka's unique interdisciplinary undergraduate program, you can write to us at apply@ashoka.edu.in or call on the number provided on the screen. Thank you and take care.